The Odd Job Man and the Thousand-Mile Boots. Story by Kenward, illustrated by Val Biro. Once, there was an odd job man who had lived for many years in the same village. There was always plenty to do. One day, he might be mending a smashed window, another replacing a broken tile or repairing a gate latch. He never knew what would come next. One morning, as he was sharpening a lawn-mower, a swallow spoke to him. "You're always in the same place," twittered the swallow. "Don't you ever want to see the world like I do?" The odd job man thought for a bit. "I might travel one day," he muttered to himself, "but only if I could get to the end of the world and back by sunset, for I do like my own bed." He made up his mind to rise early next Tuesday and borrow a pair of 1,000-mile boots from the giant who lived in the churchyard. The giant was kind and friendly, though it was a nuisance that he bit pieces out of the tombstones now and then. He had to be reminded not to do it. He slept in the church itself, with his head stuck up into the steeple. There was nowhere else large enough for him to lie down in, except the police station, and that had no spire. When the odd job man turned up soon after sunrise on Tuesday, the giant was asleep and snoring so loudly that the windows rattled, and the organ too. His feet were sticking out of the doorway. He had taken his boots off, and, I am sorry to say, his socks had holes in them as big as turnips. Somehow or other, he had to be woken, but no amount of pushing and pinching made any difference. The giant slept on. "I shall have to leave a note," the odd job man decided at last. There was a stub of pencil in his pocket, and a paper bag with licorice all sorts in it. He tipped the sweets out and wrote on the paper. Then he arranged the sweets in a pattern on top of the note to stop it blowing away and pulled on the boots. Of course, they fitted perfectly, for they were magic and would have fitted anybody. On and on he strode, 1,000 miles at a step, through grapes and pineapples, icicles and penguins. He passed over the Sahara Desert at 5 to 10 and the peaks of Everest at 5 past. He saw eagles and elephants, ostriches, and I don't know what. It is a long way to end of the world. By midday, he was weary, and having drunk a whole bottle of lemonade at a swig, he settled himself comfortably beside a river, took off his boots, dangled his feet in the water, and dozed off. When he opened his eyes, the boots had gone. He looked absolutely everywhere and trudged quite a long distance in his socks, searching. His feet became hot and sore. know where the boots are, shrilled the spider. But I am too busy to say. I must get on with my web. I have to finish by nightfall and have no time for gossip. I know where they are, grunted the leopard, sneaking through the trees. But I can't stop now. I'm hunting. Keep out of my way. I know where they are, squawked a high-up voice. It was a parrot. I see everything. Crocodile took them. He went down the river in that direction. He pointed with his wing. Thank you, cried the odd job man joyfully. I will offer him my last sandwich, if only he will give them back. The odd job man trudged on. By now he was limping a little, but soon he came to a group of monkeys, eating nuts and throwing down the shells. A crocodile with boots? They jabbered. We saw him. He went this way. He went that way. He dropped one. We tried it on. It fits us all. The left foot, that is to say. But we don't want it. We will gladly exchange it for your haversack. It would be ideal for storing nuts. The odd job man took the last sandwich out of his bag and the last bottle of lemonade. He stuffed them in his pockets. The monkeys ran to snatch the haversack and threw down the boot. He has gone that way, they chattered, pointing, and the odd job man limped on. At long last, he saw the boot sticking out of the water and the jaws of a crocodile round it. The crocodile was trying to swallow it, but as it was a magic boot, it wouldn't go down. It seemed to get stuck on his back teeth. His wife was terribly cross. It's your own fault. I told you so, she grunted, but you wouldn't listen. You should have eaten the odd job man instead. He looked tasty. As it happens, I can see him clumping up by the river right now. When the odd job man heard this, he was so dreadfully frightened that his teeth chattered. He hiccuped once, twice, 3 times and had to take a long swallow of lemonade to calm himself. Luckily, hiccups are catching. Did you know that? Mr. Crocodile was really hungry as well as thirsty by now. And he hiccuped too. It was a bit like an earthquake. And out fell the magic boot. Luckily, it floated. It was very, very near to Mr. and Mrs. Crocodile, but the odd job man was feeling a little braver. Well, just a little. He held his last sandwich far out over the water with one hand and gently dropped it. Delicious, snorted Mr. Crocodile, and he swam peacefully off, munching. With a swish of her tail, his wife went down to the bottom of the river to search for crumbs. Well, it had been a narrow escape. The odd job man ran and ran from today into yesterday and back again. It was hot, then cold, then warm, then windy, and there in the churchyard was the amiable giant mending his socks with some hairy rope threaded through a square. He had cut his toenails too, and piled them up neatly beside him in a heap until the dustbin people should come. They looked like bicycle mudguards. He was especially pleased to pull on his boots again, for he fancied a little stroll before bedtime, perhaps to Australia and back. What was it like? He boomed in his huge voice. Your day off? The same as most days, answered the odd job man, but more exciting. The same, you might say, only different. You see, we don't keep crocodiles here. He put on his own boots, lace-ups they were, I believe, and stuck his hands into his pockets. Good night, he called. See you, and whistled his way home.